Saw a story a moment ago. I think this is out of the Wall Street Journal that Russian troops are preparing to load cargo planes at Moscow's main airbase in Syria. Maxar satellite imaging showed, potentially signaling the early stages of a military withdrawal from the country following the fall of President Bashar al-Assad. A couple heavy-duty transport aircraft were at the airbase with their nose cones uplifted and preparing to load cargo. Nearby, some attack helicopters are also being loaded into that. The Russian withdrawal is picking up steam, according to experts, and it looks like, from what I'm seeing, that Russia will be looking, the loss of the area in Syria, the loss of Syria falling means that it really deals a huge blow to Russia because they had base there, and it forces Russia to look elsewhere in the region. They could be looking in Algeria, Sudan, or Libya for potential replacement bases. Moscow has few options that offer the same advantages. Syria's Tartus port, one of Russia's few accessible warm water ports. That's a story to keep your eye on. We talked about earlier this week that the fall of Syria is going to redraw the map in the Mideast, and it's going to certainly impact Russia, China, and some of the other countries over there as they have to maneuver. It's going to be interesting to watch that story. Is it our war? No. Is it our problem? No. And I think Trump would say that too. But it's something we got to keep our eye on. It's something you got to be aware of. It's something you got to keep on your radar because we'll deal with it somewhere down the line. Hopefully not in a bad way. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Kroc. We're talking about Dronegate tonight. Dronegate is going on. Drones across the country, primarily in the northeastern part of the United States, and nobody's saying anything. Just a little while ago, Alejandro Mayorkas, the director of Homeland Security, or the border guy and Homeland Security guy, says that there is nothing. He was on CNN just a little while ago. Said there's nothing they can do. Department of Homeland Security, nothing they can do about the drones over New Jersey and New York because they do not believe they have, quote unquote, the authority and to do anything about it, and suggests that people are just mistaking them for drones bought at convenience stores. Yes, that's part of the frustration. When a government official, a high-level government officials, when we see it with our own eyes, and you can't distort it, and a government official says you're seeing things, that's a problem. He's lying to us. We're being played. We're being gaslighted. And the reason drones are a real problem is we know drones have become weapons of war. And we live in very unstable times right now. And more than ever, the government has to be transparent. They got to be transparent. That's what we need. You want to calm America? Be transparent. Be forthcoming. Don't lie to us. And that's what's happening right now. Drones are weapons of war, and that's why this country, that's why it's your top story today. That's why it's your top story moving forward until we find out more, because we know we're being lied to. My question to you is, what's your theory? What's your thought? What's your opinion? What do you think's behind it? Where's this going? Who's behind it? And why are the drones out there? I saw something on Reddit earlier that said, actually, I'll tell you about that in a minute. I want to get to a couple phone calls. Let's go to Roy from Fort Worth. Roy, thanks for calling. The Chris Kroc Show. You're on with Westside Jeff.
Oh, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome, my friend.
Hey, all this negative scenarios that you've been presenting, they scare the heck out of me. But what I'd like to do is maybe propose a possible positive thing, and that I think these drones are practicing. I think, these companies that put up hundreds of drones as computer control drones that do these light shows, sure. Maybe that's what they're practicing for. Maybe they're doing something like that because New Year's is coming up, Christmas is coming up, other holidays are coming up. They might be putting on some sort of a show across the nation basically just to do that. I mean, I've seen some pretty intricate and elaborate drone shows. So I'm in a positive light, I like to think maybe something like that is going to happen. It also could be because
there's going to be a drone show somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be a Christmas drone show, though.
Well, maybe not, but I'm trying to keep a positive attitude about this.
Like the way you're thinking. I want some of what you're smoking tonight, please.
It could also be these drone schools. You know, these kids and teenagers and young adults that are learning how to do computer-controlled multiple drones, because maybe that's what they're doing out there. But kind of across several states, it's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Yeah.
If thank you for calling, Roy, and thank you for your thought and your positive spin on that. I like your glass half full. I want to be drinking what you're drinking tonight and smoking what you're smoking, because I ain't buying any of that. If it truly were for entertainment purposes, we'd know that. So that's the other thing that surprised me about this is you can't keep a secret today. You can't. You just can't. There are no secrets in this country today. With the combination of social media and 24/7 news cycles and talk radio and stuff, there ain't nobody in this country that can keep a damn secret. And there are people who know what's behind those drones, and that's the surprise to me is we're 2 weeks down the road and we still don't know. There's all kinds of speculation, but we don't have any kind of legitimate speculation. 800-288-9227 is my number. The name is Jeff, Westside Jeff. We're talking to Eric in McKinney. Eric, thanks for calling. I appreciate you calling the show tonight. What's your perspective, Eric? What's your opinion on this?
Hey, Jeff, the theory that I heard that made the most sense to me was that these are U.S. government drones, and what they're doing is sniffing for a nuke that's been smuggled onto the mainland. And, of course, they can't say anything because the whole East Coast would go into a panic.
What do you think they're sniffing for?
A nuke.
Yeah.
That's the wild, crazy conspiracy theory that makes the most sense to me.
And you know what, Eric? I'm glad you said that, because that makes sense to me too. You know what I mean? I mean, what my gut feel tells me is it's our government's behind it. Someone, somewhere. I saw a post on Reddit earlier today that made sense to me. And it's too long to get into right this second. I got to hit a news break here in a second, and I'll tell you what it speculates. And Eric, thank you for calling from McKinney. I appreciate it very much. It makes sense to me what it said. I didn't like the information. It's scary as all get out. But by God, it makes sense. I'll tell you what it said. I got to hit quick break on the other side of that. I'll tell you what it says. My number, it leaves two open phone lines at 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. You can also hit me up across social media at Westside Jeff. What's behind the drones? What's your opinion? What's your thought? What's your theory? What do you think we're going to find out? And when do you think we find out? Everybody's got an opinion. I want to hear yours. You've heard mine. I'll continue to give you my opinion. I want to hear yours. 800-288-WBAP. Be back in about 3.5 minutes with a bunch of calls and my thought on what I read earlier today about what it could be. And it follows up on what Eric said from McKinney moments ago. Back in 3.5. Westside Jeff and for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Dronegate is what's going on, and we're taking your calls and perspective and your theory of what's behind these drones in the northeast portion of the United States that nobody's talking about other than us. Government clearly doesn't know, or at least they're telling us they don't know. And to me, those who are panicked, they're panicked because drones, we've seen over the last couple of years that drones have transitioned from being a toy, a radio-controlled type toy, to weapons of war. President-elect Donald Trump just a little while ago came out and called for drones to be shot down as the FBI is receiving thousands of tips over mysterious sites across those several states. I retweeted something I saw earlier that was going on tonight on the East Coast, where somebody was taking it into their own hands. They went outside with a gun, and they were shooting at the drone. They didn't hit it, but take it in their own hands. Very, very dangerous. At the end of the day, when the government's not speaking, when lying, what we perceive lying to us, that's where that gets dangerous. People take things in their own hands. I want to hear what your perspective is. The name is Jeff. I'm Westside Jeff, and for Chris Crock tonight, being also next couple weeks. Number's 800-288-9227. You'll talk to my producer, Garrett Tarango, and he'll hit me a note and say, hey, Jeff, I got Nick from Weatherford on the phone. Nick, thanks for calling. I appreciate you being a part of the show tonight. What's your theory? What's your opinion on this?
Well, I could say first and foremost, Jeff, thanks for having me on. I would say we could probably rule out aliens if people are shooting at the things, right?
Yeah.
So I ran a drone program, a small SUAS program in the military for about 8 years before I retired recently. And I'll tell you, man, a lot of this stuff I've been hearing about this last couple of weeks, if it's the government, so everybody could understand where the military is in this, they wouldn't be doing this. Now the high up.
You don't think so?
Somewhere? No, sir. Absolutely not. Not even a company like AeroVironment that makes these, that contracts out to the government. And the reason why, you have to have approvals, man. You have to have Part 107s for all your pilots and operators. You have to have COAs, which is certification of airspace from the FAA to be able to fly these things. And most of the time when we're training and we're flying, we don't fly over water. For sure, that we don't fly over water. I'll tell you that much. And then when we do, it's on a boat, and it's specifically for water operations. And once again, you have to have the FAA involved. Everybody. There's so much that goes into it. So you can really rule out like just the general military. It ain't the general military. I promise you that. Some of the videos I've seen, some of that technology, we don't even use in the military. We don't move that way. Our stuff doesn't move that way, and we don't work with swarm technology. I know a gentleman said something about maybe they're doing one of those really cool shows like the Texas Longhorns did with drones and everything. We don't really mess with swarm technology because there's no real purpose for it in warfighting.
Nick, you said you ran a drone program in the military years ago. Did I hear you say that correct?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a couple questions about this because you're very familiar with drones and you're certainly familiar with this story. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is drones are legal to fly under 400 feet high. Once you hit 400 feet, you need FAA authorization or something to that effect. Am I right on that?
For civilians, with restrictions, I mean, you still have to be familiar with like the FAR, the Federal Aviation Regulations, and the AIM.
Yeah.
You still need to know. You can't fly like near a police station, a school. Like certain buildings. You can't be so high over a certain building. I mean, there's certain things. The problem is with drones. Everybody could get a drone and you can just fly the thing. Okay. I personally, my theory on the whole thing, it's just a bunch of people doing this and they think it's funny, and they're going to get caught. They're going to get caught. If it was our military, it's not our military. There's no purpose of it. What would they be doing? Just trying to scare people? I mean, if they're going to try to scare people, considering the current administration, I doubt they'd be outside of New Jersey and New York doing this stuff.
So,
we have dedicated.
Nick, let me ask you another question, if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
You think it's a bunch of people in personal private drones just trying to get some attention? So you think it's kind of a hoax? Have you seen the video of the drones that are flying on the East Coast?
I have. I've seen quite a few of them. I've watched them, and some of them are pretty. They don't look like something we have. And
that's the next question. What are those? You're familiar with drones. What do those cost? Those are not like $19.99 drones. Those are not $200 drones. From what you've seen, put a price on some of those.
$225,000, maybe just for one, like 107-inch wingspan and 57-inch long, like a Puma is what they would call it. About $225,000.
So you think somebody personally bought a $225,000 drone and is flying it above New York, New Jersey for fun?
Some of the ones, they're quadcopters. Now, those aren't that expensive. You could probably get those, but here's the thing. You could build these things. You literally could build these things. You can make these things 10 feet wide and fly a person if you want.
3D printer could print one.
Right. So, I just think I don't think it's the government, man. I really, it's like, why? It's the big question is why? What would they get out of this? What's the purpose? I mean, being in the program for 8 years, where I started it from the ground up and ran it for 8 years. I had 150 students going through the schoolhouse every year. I mean, we preached FAA all day long. We sent all of our pilots to private pilot school to learn how to actually fly a plane before they flew a drone. It's just so much, man. There's something. Somebody knows. You're right. I agree with you on that. Somebody knows. I don't think it's the government.
I think more than one somebody. You can't have that many drones in the air and not have people know. It's probably a couple dozen people or so. But it's amazing they're keeping a secret, whoever that is. Nick, I appreciate you calling. I appreciate you weighing in your opinion. Yep, go ahead.
One more. There was one video, and it was a police officer. He said it looked like it went underwater and then came back out of the water.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like a state park in New Jersey, and they said they saw it look like it went in the water and came out. That's another thing. We don't have that kind of technology, dude.
Okay, Nick, thanks for calling. I appreciate you weighing in on that, Nick from Weatherford. Let's go to Nathan from Saginaw. Nathan, thanks for holding. You've been on hold for a while. You're on the Chris Crock Show. This is Jeff, Westside Jeff. What's your opinion?
Well, what I can't understand is, like that guy said a while ago, what goes up must come down, but my scenario is those things came from somewhere, so why don't we just follow them? Because they got to go somewhere, and that would tell the story when they landed.
Pretty common sense to me, right?
I think it's obvious, but I've also got a theory on it too. But
what's your theory?
My theory's a little crazy, but I think it's possible that China has come over and told Biden that we're going to do this, and there ain't nothing you can do to stop us. And
if that's the case, why would they pick over New Jersey as opposed to somewhere else? Why not Montana? Why not Los Angeles?
Well, they could do it anywhere they want to. Maybe that's just where they want to. I think China is eating up this country by buying land, and I don't have a reason why for any of this stuff,
and that's what we want to know, Nathan.
I don't know why Biden would open up the border.
I thank you, Nathan, for your call. Nathan from Saginaw. I appreciate you calling. I appreciate your opinion. I got to tell you, Nathan, as much as it hurts me to say this, I don't know that Joe Biden knows himself. I mean, I'm not saying that as a Republican. I'm saying if I were sitting with Joe Biden right now, one-on-one personally, and had him be honest with me, I don't know that he knows where those are coming from. And part of that is because of his dementia. He's still, I just think he's out there. But even if our military does know, I don't know if it's gotten to Biden. I mean, I'm just not convinced of that. I want to hear your opinion, your theory. Where are the drones from? Who's behind them? What's the story? What do we do about them? Should we do something? Trump said earlier tonight, shoot him down if we can't identify it. Mayorkas said, it's not a problem. We have no authority to do it. What a kerfuffle we're in right now, coming into Christmas and coming into a month out from the next president taking over inauguration. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. We got two open phone lines at 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. Dronegate. What's behind it? Want to hear your opinion. Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock. News Talk 820 WBAP 93.3 FM. Former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, took a fall today. She's 84 years old. She was traveling with a bipartisan congressional delegation in Luxembourg when she sustained the injury, according to her spokesman. She was hospitalized, and story is, at least the off-the-grid story is, she may end up having surgery. So, former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, we all wish her well at the age of 84. You don't want to fall at 84. That sometimes, I know folks that never recover from that. Luigi Mangione's mother spent months searching for a son who never wanted to be found. prior to her coming out, being identified as Luigi Mangione's mother. She was just a mom, and she suspected something was wrong with her son because she was trying to get in contact with him. He was avoiding her, the 26-year-old Mangione, for the better part of a year, according to most to close family friends. One said that he went off the grid for 6 months to a year and wasn't communicating with anybody at all. His distraught mother was doing all she could to find him. Another said the Ivy League engineering graduate was MIA for about 8 months. It's one of the things you find from significant, really bad stories like that, the assassination UHC president or CEO. After the fact, we always find out all kinds of stories like that there were a lot of warning signs. There were a lot of people that had warning signs, and nobody did anything. Nobody said anything. There are things they could have said, done, and actions could have been taken to avoid that. Texas sues a New York doctor challenging abortion provider shield laws. Today, Attorney General Ken Paxton is accusing Dr. Margaret Daly Carpenter of violating Texas law by prescribing abortion pills to a 20-year-old pregnant patient in Collin County. The lawsuit filed in Collin County late yesterday is seeking up to $250,000. Texas is one of the more than a dozen states enforcing a near total ban on abortions since the Supreme Court eliminated federal Constitution protections for abortion in 2022. When lawmakers pass laws, when things happen that creates unintended consequences you have to deal with, that's one of them. When Roe v. Wade overturned that, sent it back to the states, and each state is determining what to do, now those people, some people in states like Texas, are looking elsewhere for those drugs. And the woman here in Collin County did a telehealth session, was prescribed the abortion drugs, a 2-stage drug. She got it. She ended up taking them and had some significant bleeding, go to the hospital, and that's how she was uncovered and how that got to where it is today, with Paxton filing a lawsuit today. Dronegate is going on. That's what I call Dronegate. Drones flying high above the East Coast. Multiple states are seeing it. Former Maryland governor said he had drones outside of his house last night hovering, and politicians on both sides of the aisle are complaining about it. Now, a couple things about this. The drones, my thought is to me, there's potentially 3 scenarios to me. Either, and none of the 3 of them are good. Either the government is behind this, the government has something to do with it, and they're government drones being tested, being flown, and they're lying to us. That's not a good thing. Or they have nothing to do with the government and nothing to do with our country, and they don't know about it, and they have no clue, and that's not good. A third scenario is, what if that it has nothing to do with our country, nothing to do with our government, and our government does know, people, leaders in our country do know, but they're lying to us. Another bad scenario. The reason this story is relevant, the reason this story is pissing people off, is because drones are no longer just toys. Drones are now a weapon of war. We've seen drones used in the Ukraine-Russian war. We've seen drones used between the Jews and the Palestinians. We've seen drones used in the overthrow of Syria. And we've seen them as weapons of war. And most recently, we've seen them in the last couple of weeks. And when you see drones like that on the news being used in weapons of war, and then all of a sudden you look out and you see big drones outside of your house, several of them, not a little toy drone, that causes concern. And when government says, it's not a big deal, it's no problem, doesn't pose a threat, something's going on, they're lying to us. It's a real problem. The other thing about the drone story is this. It's not a Republican or a Democrat story. You go up and down the dial on television, you'll see Republicans and Democrats on all networks in joint unison saying it's a problem, we need to get the bottom of it. It's not like Republicans are on one side of the aisle of this, one side of this argument, and Democrats on another. It's not your traditional political war where you have the two sides in unison on their own sides. Hell, if you watch the news anymore and you watch these guys talk, if they didn't have a D and R up there, you wouldn't know whether they were D or R, because they're both saying the same thing. What they're saying is what you and I are saying. We want to know what's going on. We want transparency. And if you really don't know government, if our government really doesn't know, then do your job and go figure it out. And don't wait another 2 weeks for that to happen. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And for Chris Kroc, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your opinions. What do you think's behind the drones? Let's go to Phil in Sherman. Phil, thanks for calling. You're on the Chris Kroc Show. I'm Westside Jeff. What's your opinion?
Well, I believe you're doing an awful fine job of filling in, and I've been listening to you for a couple of years, actually, when you've been filling in around Christmas time. But my question is, why aren't they flying them over Texas? Because personally, I believe if they flew them over Texas or Oklahoma, sniffing for nukes or whatever, there'd be so much lead in the air that you wouldn't be able to see the drones.
Hell, down here in Texas, you bring them down here, it's called skeet shooting, right?
Yeah.
Target practice.
You got it, bro.
We don't have to go to the range. We just go outside and start shooting them. It's not the most safe thing to do, right? But hell, some people pay big money for skeet shooting. You go shooting at drones like that are nobody wants to do anything about. Take it in their own hands. That's free target practice, right?
Yeah.
Well, Phil, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate.
I wouldn't want to have those raining down on my house, but shotguns, might be all right.
There you go.
Have a blessed one, and thank you very much for taking my call.
Hey, thank you very much, Phil. I appreciate it, and thank you for the compliment. I'm glad you like me on the radio. I appreciate your opinion. I appreciate your thought, and I appreciate your patronage. I'm grateful. I get a chance to sit behind this mic and sit in Chris's chair and fill in along the way, and I'm grateful for that. I enjoy it. Hell, I do it for free because I love it so much. I told Bruce Collins, the program director, heck, I'd do it for free. He said, no, I can't let you do it. I got to pay you a little bit of something. And I said, fine. I just love sitting here giving you my common sense opinion on current events. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. You can hit me up across social media at Westside Jeff on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram. That leaves 2 open phone lines. I'd like to hear your perspective, your opinion, your thoughts. What's behind the drones? And what about the story bothers you? You heard what I think. I want to hear what you think. 800-288-9227. Got to hit a quick break, 3.5 minutes. We'll be back after that with a bunch of calls. My name is Jeff, Westside Jeff, on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Dronegate's going on. Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was on earlier, I think with Wolf Blitzer on CNN, and said Department of Homeland Security can't do anything about it. They don't have the authority for it. And that's what pisses us off. Got a tweet, instant message from Steven. Steven, thank you for sending me a tweet. Said, do we even have enough details on the type of drones, the size, the weight, how high they've been flying? Anything over 250 grams and flying over 400 feet high requires a license. If you know the size, you can better tell who is doing this. I don't, Steven. I don't have the details in that. And I'm not so sure anybody does. I agree with you on the 400 feet. That's interesting. I've heard that they've been going above 400 feet. I can't confirm or deny that. It's hard to tell without an altimeter on those things. But I don't know. I haven't seen it myself. All I've seen is the pictures and the videos online and taking real-life accounts from those of what people have seen. Thank you very much for your tweet. I appreciate it very much. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And for Chris Kroc, I'd love to hear your perspective on what's your theory? What's behind Dronegate? Who's flying them? Why are they flying them? And what do you think that story looks like in a week or so? I want to hear your comment. 800-288-9227, 800-288 WBAP. Joe from Grapevine, you've been on hold for a little while. Thank you, Joe, for calling. Thank you for holding, by the way. What's your theory, Joe?
Thank you, Westside. Well, everything you just said about what drones do. It creates fear, and it creates, especially drones, like they're flying in the path they are in the areas they are. It's going to be top story. It's going to be getting a lot of attention, and rightfully so. But yet, there's what I've heard, they're not breaking the law. They, at least some areas, they're staying within the required flight ceiling. The gentleman on about all the different requirements about drone operators, that's spot on. But to do something this massive, you're going to have clearance, just like he said. Well, there's a lot that's going on right now, Westside. And I'm not talking about, we can't, believe this or that. Well, who's to say this isn't just a distraction? I mean, who would have thought that we are having to deal with the CIA, the FBI, our Secret Service, of all the nefarious and illegal things that they were trying to do and did do to our President Trump now? We never would have thought that the most powerful positions in this entire world were doing all this illegal, and they're all wanting pardons now. What better, West Side, would it be to create a diversion? They even have them in the military. Even these generals, they're wanting pardons. Why are they wanting pardons? They should be wanting to prove they have nothing to hide or have done nothing illegal. To me, this could also be a distraction. They could have units to go out, and who's to say if it's a different model? Westside, we have the different model of a car, a train, a plane, a fighter, a helicopter every year. Who's to say this isn't new drone aerodynamic technology or body shape for different reasons? I think it could be strongly a distraction because of, look at all the pardons. Look at what he's doing with the border wall, the pharmaceutical. There is a lot more, I think, this president is trying to do damage and make Trump make it even that much harder on all of us. Because from what I'm hearing, there's a lot more to this story than drones. Drones is top story. It should be. But who's to say that this is not, and I cannot repeat it enough, a distraction to get the attention off what this president is doing and what they may plan to do.
Joe from Grapevine, thank you for calling. I appreciate your opinion on that. Certainly it's a distraction because certainly everybody's talking about this, and it leads the newscasts across all the networks, whether it's CNN and MSNBC or News Nation or Fox, all the networks. That's the lead, and it's certainly a talking point. Let's see what Frank in Corsicana has to say. Frank, thanks for calling. You're on with Westside Jeff.
Thank you, Westside. I see. I concur with what Joe's saying. Along with that, and what we've seen in the past 4 years are many firsts the government used against us. We've seen the Constitution thwarted in many respects. The borders thrown wide open. The apologetics, the secrecy. We know, knowing Joe's compromised, of course, we know that, he's bought and paid for by the Chinese. I do not see how this, couldn't even involve the Chinese for that matter. Remember when the spy balloon went over the last year? Notice they shot it down when it already completed its mission to sweep all the way across America, and they confirmed that it was not ours. And now, why would you do that?
Great question, Frank. Great question.
They've. It seems like we've been in war with the Democrats since the Civil War, and they're not finished. They've become worse, the way I see it. They're comprised of their bureaucrats with the depopulation people inside of it. With all these factions that they have on their side. And we've seen what they do to cities. I distrust them totally. When I was in the Army, I had a security clearance. I'm retired military. And Clinton was the first one who brought it out and gave us a test. I remember a written test, and one of the questions, very interesting: would you take up arms against the government and the U.S.? And I see somehow I can't help but seeing we come in full circle with King George here, and the whole thing. And I'm sure I might be scaring some people by saying these things, but to me, the way they all add up, if you took a piece of paper and wrote these all down and just checked them off, this is an enemy.
Frank, this whole thing is scary, and I appreciate your call and I appreciate your comment on this. I got to hit top of the hour break. We're talking about what's behind the drones, Dronegate. What's your opinion? You're hearing some of our listeners. I want to hear yours. 800-288-9227.